get started here. So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and we're excited to show you the plans for the park, the pool, and the community center, and all that. It's been a long time coming, and something we've been working on for a long time. So we're excited about the plan. Chris Trotta from Levelheads is here. He's going to be taking you through the plan, answering questions, and he and his staff are here to help guide us and try to get everyone the questions that they need. At any point in the future, if you have questions, just call us. We're happy to share with you our information, and call the recreation department and send us that information. We'll try to keep updating the plan on our website, so if you're looking for a place to go and look at pictures or whatever, we'll try to update that as updates are available. So, no further ado, Chris, John.
Welcome. I'm joined here today with colleagues of mine from the architectural team. We have Carly Skella, we have Chris Meske, our landscape architect, and working the computer and also available for questions is Tammy Polens. So all four of us are here to answer questions. This may have to be lost here in a second. So what we like to do tonight is we want to gather any kind of questions, any comments, any concerns about our project and the development. We're at the first phase of design of the project, and that's called schematic design. And that's when we're working on all the program. You know, what's the aquatic program? What are the pools? Different variety of pools in the building. What's the program components? All of those items are to be figured out in this first phase. Thank you. So we want to figure out all those details. Right now it's the opportune time to get feedback from yourselves and to make sure that you feel that we are on the right track from even prior community commentary that we've received. We want to show you how we've addressed that. And then as we can affect the plans, as we can affect the layout, the diagrams now, we will do so. And the idea is to show you where we are, explain some rationale behind it, and then really open up the floor for questions. So that's the main important part of this, is we want to get to the questions. So what I'd like to do is go through these slides, give you the background, show you the site plan, and so forth. And I'll try to get through that pretty quickly. We can go back and forth to slides, but I really want to get to your feedback. While you're sitting there, if you have questions, write them down, please. You can put your name on them or not, so that's up to you. But what we like to do is collect them. And behind me, we have some categories made of comments about the pools, the aquatic deck, or the community center, the building itself, the site, the landscape, or parking and site amenities. So we're going to kind of categorize them in those areas, or any other question you have. So that's kind of the format. Does that make sense for everybody? If you have a burning question that hasn't going through this, if you want to ask it, please do. So I'll try to go through it pretty quick, but if you want to stop me, just raise your hand and we'll stop and answer your questions. Go ahead, Tammy. So these are some of the I guess, tenets of the project. You know, creating an award-winning facility. Well, what does that mean? For us, that means that this site is very special. It's really right on the demarcation point of Mayfield Heights on 271, and it's really an anchor for the community. It's really a special site, and we really need to create something that's unique for Mayfield Heights and creates an identifier for your community. We toured Avon, Rocky River, and many other facilities to see what they did, but we want to be different. So that's what that sort of means, is we want to be different for good reason and to make you proud of this facility. And it's really an anchor point for the community. We want to make it special.
Chris, can you just speak up just a little bit?
Sure. We have one time to get this right, so it's really important from a budget standpoint, from a program, and from the amenities that we get this right. We're spending a lot of money here to create a facility for the long term, and that's really important. This is not for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It's for longer term than that. We want to make sure that we get everything in the facility that'll allow for growth, flexibility in the future, and so We heard you. We wanted to maximize the aquatics area, so we really wanted to make sure that the positioning of this building on the site was such that we could get the most real estate for the aquatic deck. And that's really important. It's kind of a wedge-shaped site, so that's why we located the aquatics portion in the bigger part of the site, and the parking is sort of on the east side, and it's minimized. Even though parking is extremely important, we wanted to capitalize on the site with the program of the building and the aquatics. Maximize the pool deck. And then we heard from you, we wanted a playground. We wanted to make sure that we have a playground at the north end of this. Really a connector point from the park to the north, right to our site, and there's going to be a really nice playground. And we keep increasing the size of it as we talk about the project to make sure there's enough amenity of a playground for the children of the community that's sort of a precursor to the building itself. And the giant slide, that I heard, I never did participate in it, but it was sort of an icon for the community, and was something that as we look at aquatics program and this R slide, we want to sort of not replicate it, but really have a symbol that is the anchor to the site, that all the sight lines and everything draws your eye to that slide. That's kind of the main focus point of the aquatics deck. And then maximize flexibility. We have community rooms, so we're going to be replacing this building. On this site, the service center will be here. We're moving the piles of debris and equipment and things that are on the south side of the site will be moved over this way, closer to the rest of the service center. So this building will be torn down as part of this project. Carla?
During the summer of 2019 and the summer of 2020, the City of Mayfield Heights put out surveys to gain information from the community and other community engagement activities. And so I'm sure you guys have all seen the results of that, but here we're showing you sort of the top 4 ranking wants from the community. You can see there umbrella and shaded seating, upgraded playgrounds with special needs amenities, and trail locations.
From a floor plan standpoint and a site plan standpoint, it's a challenge. And the site's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, and it kind of all works together a certain way to meet all of those criteria. The recreation department would relocate from City Hall into this building as well. We're looking at these community rooms where we have probably about, it's around 4,000 square feet that has divisions with large partitions that can divide it up into different size community rooms. So there could be a room as large or larger than this, and there could be rooms much smaller. But there's about 8 different scenarios of room sizes in the community center to be really flexible from a reception to a small meeting. We could kind of accommodate all of that with a kitchen that's right adjacent to serve those needs. We wanted to have a senior cardio fitness room, so we have that designed into the plan with there's sort of an outdoor courtyard that we're working on that'll be right adjacent, so it's a little bit private, but it's able to enjoy the natural amenities of daylight and some landscape. There'll be basketball, volleyball courts, there'll be a large gymnasium as part of this project. And then the aquatic center, really checking the boxes of slides and lap pools and all sorts of fun amenities outdoors as the main focus of the site itself. And then create an outdoor living room. What does that mean? Well, when you have all these nice community rooms, it would be nice to break out from those rooms and go outside, go onto the aquatic deck. But yet we have to, for code reasons, we have to still keep it fenced in, but it's sort of like an outdoor living room with a fire pit, tables, so that you can expand out from your community meetings and go outside and see the park and be part of it. But yet you have the safety and the security of still being within a fenced area. And then there's a walking path we're suggesting that kind of wraps from the park that comes down on the west side and wraps around some tree-lawned areas and comes back out just to extend the park and pull it into the site a little bit, that walking path. And then we have on-site parking right now for about 190 parking spaces. The schedule, just to give you a rough idea, we'll start at the end. Really, the site completion is to be April, May 2023. And there's a lot of activities in between pool construction, maybe on a separate construction track, and the building construction, and we're mapping all that out. We just brought on board Higley Construction Manager Company to be the builder of the project and sort of be the third partner with the City of Mayfield Heights and GPD, the owner's rep, the architectural team, and the construction team. So we're all now formed together, and they will be the responsible party for keeping us, to the schedule and doing all the budgeting through our phasing. So this is the site as it currently exists. You've got the 3 ball fields, you have the existing parking, and then the building we are in is right adjacent to the parking. If we do the overlay, Tammy, if you could flip the slide to the overlay. This shows 2 of the features. So this is the site kind of ghosted out. These are the residences to the left on Sunnydale, and then you see the, so this is the building location. You can see where it goes over top of the ball fields. This is the large, the giant slide feature, and this is the building we're in now. So you can see where it sort of fits right in line here. And then the park access is right here. So the large tower slide will be right in line with that. This is the entrance, which is directly on line with Marsol and visible from the parking lot. And then is the center access, sort of the northwest or the east-west access that's on line for that. So we're really utilizing that slide tower as an anchor to the site. This slide just shows how we're going to demolish the service center, the building that we're in. We may even consider reusing some of these beams, whether it's for structural reasons or just for some wood walls to repurpose some of the features in here, just to carry that over if possible and to save costs. Right now, you've heard in the industry, all the prices of metal deck and steel and everything is escalated. It's hard to get materials. And so we want to be very careful on the design of this building, on the materials, masonry, and other materials that are more readily available so that it doesn't delay the project. So we're really trying to consider what's the best way to build this, what's the means and methods and the constructability to make sure we can get this done on schedule. Just some familiarity with some of the site. Obviously, all of you know the site very well. This is looking northeast at 271 is the backdrop. And that's a really important thing. We're right against 271. There's the noise of 271. We are really trying to, with the positioning of our building is to block that noise from the Aquatic Deck. And that's why, we'll get to the site plan in a second, why the position is such. And this is Marsol looking, actually that's southwest, but looking down at the site, and that's the existing building that will come down. That's the restrooms right behind the ball fields. And then there's the sort of the tree line as a buffer. We really need to keep the existing trees along the residence edge intact as much as possible. We've just got some site surveys completed, and we're noting where the majority of these trees are. And our walking path will kind of go right down this, where we're looking at right now, to the end, and then come back. But we really want to preserve for the neighbors all the density that exists, and potentially revising the fencing there to actually block the views, per some consensus from them on how to, be a good neighbor to those, 10 residents or so on that edge. And this is the view looking north. This will be sort of right in line where the large slide will be here, right where that ball field is, looking north where the walking path will be to the left. Just a couple of slides. So from the standpoint, from the building orientation, we wanted to make sure this building is sprawled out. It's a one-story building. All the program, the basketball courts, the community rooms, the majority of the program really deserved to be on the first floor. We didn't want to have to put in elevators. We didn't want to have to make people walk upstairs to get to those type of spaces. Naturally, basketball courts are on the ground level. Community rooms, the same thing. We want you to be able to break out and go right out to that outdoor living room space I was talking about. So we wanted it to be a single-story building. We have this gymnasium that we had to deal with. This is a 35-foot high structure, and we wanted to separate that out a little bit from the architecture of what sort of wraps around the aquatic center area. And we also wanted to make a strong sort of flagship billboard to 271. So from signage and so forth, to be able to really represent this building and what it is in the community, that sort of the gateway that you're passing through. So it orients itself right so that you would see that coming south on 271. We also wanted, and so this sort of shape sort of embraces this aquatic park, but it also does two things. We wanted to block the noise from the aquatic deck from 271 as much as possible. There's certainly a lot of noise from 271. So this building will help do that. It'll be a solid mass that kind of blocks the sound as much as possible. The parking lot, we wanted to make it as regular as possible such that we can maximize the parking. So you come in, if you're at the handicap parking, there's parking right on the side of the road for coming right in the facility, and across the way, there's a drop-off under a covered canopy, and we've located sort of a bus drop-off if there's a school or a team or something that parks here. And then just very regular parking and an exit out. And then the back side here is where there would be a service yard and a service dock to bring supplies, materials, trash dumpster, all of that would be on this south side of the building. Staff parking here, maybe potential for some future expansion for the building here. And then we've got some easements of large towers that we have on site for power lines and things that we have to work around. And then we're hinting at the whole walking path that comes back here in the woods that's back in here, circulates back out, but really continues the north-south access from the park. The front of this is a playground area, and this diagram is a little bit outdated. We're kind of increasing this a little bit more, actually. There's a couple entrances. There's the aquatics entrance, which is right under this sort of portal, and it comes right into the site. Then there's the community center entrance. So we've separated them intentionally, and then we've protected this one with a canopy. So if you're coming for a reception or a meeting, you can get dropped off under cover. And that's what we saw when we went on some tours. We saw that a lot, that they had a covered canopy at the community center. That was a nice feature. We have a courtyard that we actually are filling up. It's really two things. One is a courtyard because that's a great, nice amenity to have, but then for future expansion, if you need to have a fitness program right center to where the gym is, adding on is okay, but it's got to be sort of in the center, so we could fill in that courtyard in the future. So that's why that is located there. And then we'll get into the aquatic deck in a little bit. But anyhow, that's the general layout of the site. And we'll get into a little bit more detail of the several pools that are in this location. From an overall standpoint of the building itself, we've got 271 here. This is where the building that we are in now that will be the service center. So you can see the full pile of leaves up there and the trucks and the dirt piles, and all of that will be fenced off on this side of the site, right in the spot that we're sitting in right now. You see the large gymnasium, very high, 2.5 stories in height, and then you have the aquatics, or the community center that kind of wraps around the building. And the idea is that, and we'll get to the floor plan, that we have all this nice, kind of the concourse of the community center wraps around with all the windows on this side, so you have the views of the aquatic deck. There's also, this is the outdoor sort of living room. It's fenced in, but it's a nice outdoor amenity space, so you can leave the community center, go outdoors, not be on the pool deck, but still be secured behind the fence. This feature here, this is the rec department, kind of front and center with views to the aquatic center and right in the center court sort of the community room. This is the pool building, so this is where the concessions are located. We also have the changing rooms, the bathrooms, some storage, and so forth on the left side. On the right, we have the service dock back here. We might have a little maintenance building for lawnmowers and other pool supplies, sort of separated out a little bit. And this is Marsol. This is the giant slide. We have a picnic pavilion in this location. Camps that happen there during the summer can kind of regroup in those areas. We have lots of seating. This just shows a little bit sparse, but we probably would have 150 to 200 reclining chairs out there on the pool deck in different scenarios, and then have some other sunshade areas with chairs around them as well. We're still working on all those details, but this kind of shows you kind of the master concept of it. From a floor plan standpoint, these are the couple entrances. This is where you kind of go underneath a roof and come into the aquatic deck. This is the canopy, the drop off, and you come in, and it does a couple things. You come into the vestibule, You can either go into the community center part, or you go head this direction and go into the fitness or the athletic side or the basketball court side. And we're working on the design now that we could lock down the community center portion and just have this open. Or if there's a wedding reception going on and you don't want to have people coming for basketball and other things, you can close this area down and have that as the primary occupant during the day. We've got, right here is another sort of multi-purpose room. It could be rent out for birthday parties, but it's kind of a showpiece right on the front corner of the entrance. It can be used for many different things, even yoga classes. It's going to be a multi-purpose type room. We have the rec department. Here are their offices. I talked about this pool building, which has changing rooms. It has lockers and the restrooms, the concession stand. We have the lifeguard, first aid, and the pool director right here at front and center, and accessible to all pool functions. And we have some storage, and we have the admin. So this is where you go get your season passes and just check in for the day and so forth. And we even have from the park side, we have a couple bathrooms up there that could be used for the park. The concession will also be available for the park as well as the pool deck. There'll be a fence in between those two sides, but you'll be able to take advantage of that amenity there as well. These are just some rough renderings that we've produced. This is the main drop-off canopy and the main entrance. It'll be a lot of glass. You can see sort of all the way through the building. It'll be very transparent. This is the gymnasium in the distance. And then this is the pool building that with the restrooms and so forth. And here's that community room I talked about. And you kind of walk in between here to go out to the pool deck. And then even at nighttime, we want to make sure this building is illuminated, and it can be, we could have participation for some evening events in the pool, or if, as go out that outdoor living room space coming out on the deck, and really make it a well lit and enjoyable environment, daytime or evening time. A little bit closer up of the floor plan, this is the basketball court area. Here's the courtyard that we spoke of that's right in between here. And right now we programmed half of this, having that senior cardio room is in there. Yes, sir?
On the previous slide, you showed the slide that goes behind the property, the residential properties. How tall is this thing? Is that really the best place to put that? You're gonna have kids going down the slide and screaming, and you got the residents right there. Yeah,
there's expected noise that you would have from an aquatic park, and there's expected noise certainly from the activity of the ball fields now. And so what we did was a little bit of a study, and I have it later on a slide, that this pool will be in operation 3.5 months of the year. The baseball fields and utilization of the baseball fields was about 7 months of the year. And the time of day that they're going to be utilized is much less. Now, that's a little bit of an answer to say, yeah, there's going to be less disruption because the time is different. But you will have kids, and we did present a week ago to the residents along that edge, and that was a prime issue. And we left that conversation with potentially putting up a new fence, a privacy fence, screening that, and then there's the trees that block the views for the majority of the homes, not all of them.
How tall is that?
40 foot tall is the platform.
I wouldn't want that in my backyard.
Okay, I just want to clarify this. So there's a big section of pools, right?
Yes, sir.
Any part of it enclosed? Because it seems like there's a lot of money and a lot of people, seniors, which I'm a proud member of now, do aquatic exercises all year round, and we're putting a huge investment in something for 3.5 months. So why isn't a lap pool enclosed in this way? It's used 12 months a year.
Yeah, that was a consideration prior to when we got involved, but the decision was to kind of replicate the current facility in the sense of keeping it all outside as an aquatic park and not enclose a pool. It's very expensive to do that as well.
Well, it's enclosed. I mean, other towns have it where it's enclosed, but it's open during the summer. So it's, an outdoor, indoor kind of pool. And the other question is, I look at the nice lighting and everything else. How come there's no solar panels anywhere? I mean, we have a single-story building with a huge roof, and why don't we try to save a little money on the taxpayers?
Well, I think that's a good idea. And we're at the beginning of the design. We haven't done any engineering yet on the building, and we haven't showed details of if there are solar panels or not, but I think that's a great idea.
And who's they? You said, we decided, who's the we? I mean,
And maybe Sean, you can answer this, but a while ago, questionnaires went out on what you want to see in the facility, and we showed slides of ranking it, and all of those features were outdoor pool amenities.
so did you put any for part of it to be enclosed, or did you just put it all for outdoor? And the other thing, I've been living here, I'm just here like 3.5 years, so I don't know when these questionnaires went out.
Sure, maybe.
But I never got one.
Yeah, so the questionnaires, we did a questionnaire in 2019, and then we followed up a little bit more specific.
Well, I've
questionnaire.
been living here in 2019, I never got one.
I would guess that you're probably not the only one that got one. I mean,
No, I didn't. You didn't get one.
You did not, correct. It's a city of 20,000 people. We had 800 questionnaires. We put it out on Facebook. We did a bunch of, you push it out the best you can. We did some public meetings here, small group meetings.
So you sent out 800 questions?
No, we got
No,
850
we had 800
returns.
responses.
How many sent
So
out?
like anything, if you're in any city and you put something out, there's a small portion of people that respond to that.
No, but I asked you, did you mail it to every person? Just like
We did not mail it to every person. We publicized it on our website, we put it on social media, we had it in our park during Unity Days.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't go on social media. I'm not a Facebook-driven person. So
We had
my
it at our
question is,
community
I'm not
days.
Facebook-driven, and I
Yeah.
get it mailed. I'm just left out of Mayfield thing.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, we had 850 respondents to this social media.
So 20,000 people and 800 people decided,
If you talk to people that do surveys, they will tell you that's a pretty good number.
and in the questions, did you put down part of the pool to be enclosed?
We did not.
Okay, so you didn't even put it out there.
So can you give me an example of a pool that's both indoor and outdoor?
Okay, Solon Community Center.
So they have an indoor pool, and then they also have an
With
outdoor
the
pool.
slides and everything.
They have, so that's 2 pools. That's 2 pools. So they have an indoor pool and an outdoor
They're
pool.
also connected, so you can go out.
To answer your question about the specific question regarding the indoor-outdoor pool option, it may not have been a specific question, but there was an independent comment section. So if you had specific concerns about having an indoor pool, that would have been the section.
Well, no, I'm just looking, and I know you want me to shut up already.
No,
But
Nobody's
it's
gonna have to
$15 million we're talking about. And where I come from, I'm gonna pay for it. Everybody sitting here is gonna pay for it. And to have such a big expense, and for someone to decide that such a huge part of it is only gonna be used for 3.5 months.
But just to be clear, what you're suggesting is we build yet another pool, not for the same amount.
I didn't say that. I said you have a lap pool there. Why can't that lap pool be covered over and connected?
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
what we did on this, let me get to the pool plan, let's talk about that. What we have here is a series of multiple pools, and we did this intentionally. We have a lap pool in this location that's connected to a 0 depth pool. The depth here goes from 0 to 3.5 feet. We have a pool here that's 3.5 lap pool. Then we did a separate pool with a diving platform, so that we had a pool for people that don't want to be necessarily in the mix of all the children and that activity, that they have their sort of a separate area to do laps and things like that. So we deliberately separated these pools. Plus, if there's an incident with a child in a pool that has an accident, we don't only have to shut down one pool, and we can use the secondary pool or vice versa, that we always keep activity going at the pools. We don't shut down one.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that a lap pool, if you close it, it's a 12-month-a-year facility.
Yeah, but what we found from our experience, and I'm not discounting your thoughts, is indoor pools, during school sessions, you get limited use.
But I'm talking for senior
I
programs.
understand that, but from our experience, I'm speaking about other projects we've done, and not anything from Mayfield Heights, is that those pools get little use, and we wanted to maximize the dollars where it's going to get the most use, and then provide some other amenities. Yes.
Just a comment. The high school has a pool. that we have access to.
Yeah,
Exactly, go to the high school, all year.
Go to high school, $12.
Yeah, so there's certainly an answer for that. This was really to advance and take into the future the outdoor aquatic program. That was the intention here, always represented to us, to bring it in and then maximize the community room spaces for other activity. There's a lot of other seniors that don't swim and want to have meeting rooms and spaces and cardio rooms that we are providing. So I think everyone has, and if you do want to do indoor swimming, there's a good answer that you can go to another pool. And that's where we are today with it.
How does it feed the community center if you have to go to another place?
The community center,
This is a community center, go some other place. But I'm just saying is, because you could
No, we're
incorporate
bringing
a senior like center into it also, where it's really used for everybody, but I'll be quiet now.
So there's some good comments. We are trying, if you heard, we have a senior fitness area with cardio machines that we're working such that it's really dedicated to that. We don't have a free weight area for schools and younger folks to be lifting the heavy weights and all of that. That's not what this is about. There are other locations for that, just like the indoor pool. We can't design everything for everyone. There has to be compromises and choices. And listening to the community and their needs, this is where we are checking most of the boxes. We're not going to have every feature in it. Otherwise, the project would be way too much money.
Question or comment on surveys. By the questions a surveyor asks of its community can elicit certain responses. Mayfield Village a couple of years ago had a 10-year plan. They put out surveys, and the results of the survey just did not jive with the community. And they ended up ditching the whole 10-year plan that the hired surveyors came up with. So I have a question about why does this have to be in this section? If you want a landmark, do it right, do it once, spend $15 million if that's what it's going to cost, why not put it at Mayland? Put it on Mayfield Road. The old Giants line was on Mayfield Road. Why not put it on the north side of Marshall, where there is more territory in both of those locations, so you're not limited by the wedge shape of this area?
From our design perception, we think it's an incredible, great site for this project. It is right there, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. It's like the showpiece for the community. What do we have right now? We have some ball fields. We have the service center. We have the leaf piles, and it's not the most attractive feature. My kids played there for years on those fields. I know it very well. This facility will clean all of that up and really truly make everyone that passes by there every day look and notice and ask, what is that? And it's a landmark. We're trying to create a landmark. If it's further back someplace, and I don't know these other sites that you're talking about, and we did not pick this site.
You don't know the Mayland site?
But I love this site. It's a great site for this project. And just because you have lots of land, then that means we're not going to fill it all. We like the condensed. We kind of see this as a urban aquatic and community center. It's not out in the suburbs like an Avon or Rocky River. We like the density of this.
Well, as you know, I'm a co-owner of Sunningdale, so this thing's in my backyard. And as I understand it, the gigantic slide would be 4 stories high, towering over, people like, they're gonna have semi-public backyards from now on. No one's gonna be sunbathing in the nude if they were before, because the kids will turn them in.
Well,
But, and I've
from your-
joked to you before
from your-
about putting lights on for your low-flying aircraft. I think it's gonna be a hideous eyesore for this neighborhood.
Well, we had the meeting with you, were in there, your home is back here and shielded by the woods. You're back here,
I
so
have
you're
friends
good.
on the street.
The neighbor that was right across from the aquatic deck,
He said, how am I gonna tell my wife? No.
he's fine with it, and he said, as long as I have a solid fence, he's good, and he understands it. So the neighbor that should be concerned the most is okay with it. Any other questions while we're pausing?
But again, why can the slide be placed somewhere else by the freeway, and why it has to be right there?
It's just the nature of the layout. We're trying, number one, it's very noisy on that site. And we want to have a building, number one, that blocks the noise from the freeway. That's why it's positioned here. That's where the building is. If we put, and so this is the pool deck. It has to go someplace here. A 40-foot tower isn't going to. No, we would never reverse the building, because then all the noise from the freeway, it's so loud there, that's not desirable.
It's gonna affect who?
The 1,000 people that are on there, and the lifeguards, and the safety of the swimmers. You would never flip it that way and have all that noise as well. You wouldn't
Put
do.
insulation on the outside wall.
What's that?
Put insulation on the outside wall. Put some barriers on the freeway, those barriers on the freeway.
We can't control what ODOT and people do on the freeways. That's not part of our project, but from a design, so let's say that someone said, okay, let's put it over here and switch this around. Well, then all of the noise of this freeway is going to be right on that facility. And council asked us to make sure that we put a building there such that it prevents the dust, debris, and it blocks the sound. And we're following through with those directives, that we need to make sure that this is kind of a very nice oasis here, protected by this building, protected by the noise. That was kind of work to make sure we do that. The parking, and plus because it's a wedge-shaped site, this is the greatest amount of area where this aquatic deck can go. If it was over on this side, there wouldn't be enough space for it, and the parking would be in the backyard of all these folks.
So has there been any consideration using this design, but just not have, I don't think, but I would be affected if that tower was the one we're doing without the tower, something else that's spectacular and not the tower.
And we did, I'll click ahead here, and we can go, these are just some features of so this is a section that here's the resident that is okay with this now. These are the trees are 40, 50 feet tall in between here in most conditions. They're pine trees, evergreens, and maple trees mostly. They're in between here, and then here's the tower. So the view is blocked in many cases, not in all cases, and in those cases we will plant some additional evergreen trees, and we're suggesting to add a 6-foot-high solid fence for all of those residents, and they all in the meeting last week were happy with that as an answer, and they were pleased. They don't want to see people walking their pets, because they have pets that are going to be barking at each other. They want the wall, and they all said they're happy with that. That was the conclusion of our meeting last week. You were there.
Meeting with who? Meeting with who?
The residents, all of these residents along here, these are their last names. These are their addresses. All of these residents that could attend, a couple could not attend.
Does the gigantic slide have to be so gigantic?
Well, do the kids need to not have as much fun? I'm kidding, but it's a thrill. It's a
I
thrill.
a slide on the way over here in the village that looked like a 2-story road before.
Yeah, no, the mayor, we went out to a facility that was a 40-foot high platform that had the flumes that come down, and that is the most, we have, and I'll get to the image, it has 4 slides that, the kids can race each other down the center. Then it has 2 flumes that shoot off and go into the different pools. One of them sort of launches them into the deep water pool. In this location, the other one is a little bit more gentle, going into the shallow pool. And it's just, trying to recreate sort of something that's different than any other city pool, and it would be the most fun for the residents.
What is the minimum height of the kids that are allowed to slide down there? Is it like 4 feet?
Do you know that off?
No, it's usually around 42, but it will vary by slide.
So if the child is less than 42, we won't be able to get on it.
Correct.
What's the
There
insurance?
is a top slide into the shallow pool. There's a separate slide, correct? And there's the.
Correct. There's
can you go through
6.
the aquatic elements maybe, and let's talk through some of the stuff that's there other than the lap pools?
Well, let's go to some of these other images. These are some other slides, just these aren't the ones we're using, but tall slides, they're 40 feet tall. These are some examples of those. We have a current channel, sort of like a little bit of a lazy river that has a little vortex pool in the middle. We have something similar to this. And we'll have a walking path that goes back, and then, in areas I talked about, sort of the living room space coming out of the community center. We have the zero depth pool, something similar to this. Zero depth here, going all the way to 3.5 feet to get into the other lap pool. You see here's a picnic structure having something similar to that, umbrellas and so forth.
So we're building a water park. I mean, that's, call it what you want.
This is Avon, this is their city.
No, I'm talking about with your picture, we're building a water park.
Correct.
Correct. So it's not an aquatic deck, it's a water park. My question is, what's going to be our insurance impact on our?
I am not an insurance person, but maybe someone from the city could.
Anybody know?
I don't think we've gotten to that point because of the plan's not finite yet.
Well, I would want to know before.
So the finance director, has been involved in all these meetings, and she is up to date on all those issues, and we wouldn't be going a step in any direction without knowing. We have a current pool
Well,
now.
we're making a step right now with not knowing, so we
No,
don't.
no,
We
don't.
already have. She would have red flag in place that must have insurance.
Yeah, but we're talking about a 40-foot multi-level slide. I mean, we're talking, it's not apples to apples.
There was a Caribbean resort with a gigantic slide, even bigger than this, where people have fallen off. So I wonder of the ongoing expenses of this thing, how much would be insurance for a gigantic slide?
There have been a number of conversations through us going through all of the different possible aquatic amenities that we could have, where we've nixed quite a few due to insurance or cost factors. So we are thinking about it as we're designing this.
So you have a ballpark, a spitball number on insurance?
The finance director has been involved in all these issues, and she is on top of everything, and she would not let this move forward.
That's not what I'm asking you. The question, I'm asking for a number. Does anybody here, who's
she's
making
not
this
here. I don't know
presentation,
what
have
that
a
is.
number? No. So you're selling something to us, and I ask a simple financial question, and the answer is, somebody that's not here might have the information, but we don't have it.
No, someone that is not here does have the information. Don't split hairs. She has the information.
Well, I'm paying for these decks.
If you want to email me, I'll find out the information. I'll forward it to
Why
Karen.
don't you email me?
Sean,
Give me
I have
your
this
email, and
information.
I'll do that.
I have
I'll
this
find out the information.
You're Robert,
and get that to
correct?
Yeah.
I will go mark your question down. We'll try and get you an answer before the end of the week.
That work?
Might as well send it out to everybody.
And then this also includes, we'll have a similar feature like a family slide, so a mom and child can go down together on a slide. That's very popular. And then, of course, there are other little water features and devices that we will design into the project, as well as some sunshade areas as well. And then we are planning on having we have a pool that can, all the pools will have sort of the steps that go into it for safety. There'll also be handicap lifts to make sure it's very accessible for everybody. And then we will have features like this, is like a rock climbing wall to climb up, and have some fun. And then, there'll be basketball, opportunities to play basketball and set up a volleyball nets and things like that. And with the 2 lap pools, activities can be going into one, and then others can be doing lap swimming all times of the day. Kind of have that separation as the demand requires. And then we've done lifeguard studies for how many lifeguards for all of these pools that we would need. And it ranges from 9 to 13 lifeguards at the facility as well. And then just some other sunbathing structures and making sure we have plenty of shade and a picnic area, something similar to this. Just want to show some examples for this product park. I'll go back to the rendering, I'll go back to this plan and just sort of open it up for questions. And, we've had questions all along the way, which is fine. But if you've written down elements of the post-it and want to share your question with us, now would be a good time. And if you don't want to share, we can just collect them and put them up on the wall. Where did these go? When does that happen? You're doing them?
Yeah. We got a few from the audience. I can read them out to you.
Yeah, let's
give me the microphone so that you can. Okay, so parking. Where will overflow parking be? 190 spaces doesn't seem to be enough for all the activities and people.
Yeah, we're doing, part of this process is doing, in our due diligence, is doing a zoning review to make sure we meet zoning requirements. And there's immediate parking, across the street and at the tennis courts here as well. So that will certainly supplement it. But we need to go through the process to make sure that we, meet the zoning requirements.
I mean, that was my question. When you're talking about having a wedding or something like that, and you have 190 spots, that means 1 or 2 people per car.
We only have, the largest event can have approximately 225 people. So
At the same time, the pools are open and all the other.
No, I think the way it's been represented to me is, these things will be scheduled, and yes, it may happen that the pool may be open when there is one event, but we probably wouldn't have some big basketball event going on when there's something happening in the community rooms. But there could be the Aquatic Deck, the Aquatic Park would be open while that, and so there'd have to be supplemental parking or some other type of arrangement made. But we are trying to maximize the parking on the site, and we will work with the building department to make sure we have enough.
I mean, this, me personally, don't shoot the messenger, but I think this looks amazing, what you're projecting. I've been a resident for 62 years. I went to the old pool, I went to the giant slide, and this is like a showpiece. But my question is it going to be just for Mayfield Heights residents? How are you going to control?
Actually, how many people are using the pool?
Have you been to our pool lately?
That was Jim.
Have you been there within the last 20 years? Well,
But I just wondered how many people actually, how many kids do we have in the community? How many people are going to be using this?
I don't know how many kids are in the community.
Have you forecasted how many people will be using it?
I do know there are a high number of residents that go to neighboring pools because our pool is, sorry, he told me not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Our former finance director is here, Bob Tribby, who's now retired. He told me he rode his bike up there for the opening of the pool. That's how old it is. He was using it advocates in high school.
But I think that's, my question is, we've got this big, beautiful facility, and it's obviously there's an expense to it. How many people are actually using it? Or how many?
All the summer camp kids will.
What percentage of our community are, retired, are they working during the day, or, what is the usage of it?
I think a brand new facility like this is going to generate a lot of excitement for the community. I think when your neighbor goes to sell their house and a young family is looking to move into the area and they see this, it's gonna make buying your neighbor's house that much more enticing. The people that live here now, there's a number of people that go to Mayfield Village or Highland Heights. You can't ride your bike to Mayfield Village or Highland Heights. Again, I think it's a spectacular facility, and it's gonna be a shot in the arm for our residents who've been dealing with a out-of-date pool that probably should have been replaced close to 20 years ago.
So, was there ever any consideration about putting the pool in the park? The existing park?
All right, I probably should have brought this up in the beginning. I'm sorry for doing that. So we're easily 100 acres shy of park space for a city our size. And we know we're never going to get that. We're never going to buy up enough homes to create 100 additional acres. So we went out and we engaged a design firm to come in and maximize our park space, make it the most efficient that we could. And in that process, they came up with this. An example of that, of maximizing our footprint, would be this building. So when you're in this building and you have a meeting in this room, let's say you have a speaker, a public speaker like myself, and then there's another meeting in that room, it can't happen because the noise flows into that room. So this effectively becomes a one-shot meeting hall, where in this new facility, we're going to have the potential for 8 different options. There's 4 different rooms that have the partitions, so in essence, you could have 2 or 3 parties going on at the same time. That's maximizing our footprint, maximizing what we can do, making our park space as efficient as possible.
The aquatic deck could handle 500 to 1,000 people a day, could be out on that deck. So we're designing it that way, from the quantities of the water, the square footage of all the water to add up. We're going to have probably, like I said, 150 to 200 of those reclining lawn chairs. We have to really make sure that we've got enough space for all of that to happen. And that's why on the site it's located where it is to maximize that. But it could have some peak demands. It could have 500 to 1,000 people at one time.
Well, I must say, I like the fact that one of the pools is directed more towards adult swimming.
We wanted to make sure we had the amenities so that you weren't in the pools. You could always have lap swimming while all these other activities were happening for the rest of the population. Yes, sir.
I'm going to direct this to Sean. So Sean, we know that we have 5,000 apartment units in our city. We also know that some of those buildings do have pools. But with this facility, which is state-of-the-art, and a 40-foot giant slide, how are you going to control the parents bringing their kids here?
How are we going to control what?
How are you going to control the parents of the kids in the apartments?
Can you repeat
They're
the
going to want to
question?
come here.
So we can hear the question.
You can repeat the question.
Marty would rather hear from you.
Being an apartment dweller, a lot of these buildings are old and the pools are defunct anyway. We always bypass it to other pools because we can't use our pools. So saying apartment has a pool and not have us come is not going to work.
You're welcome. Any
I know.
resident of the city is welcome, and
Why don't you read some of the other questions, please?
It's working? We have some questions on the community center. The first question was, what will happen to the current groups meeting in the current community center? And I believe that was your question. Was that in relation to this building being torn down? Okay, Chris, can you talk, maybe schedule on that?
so we're still trying to finalize when this building will be torn down. We've been told first quarter of 2022, but that's as far as we've got. We've talked to the different people and that are the heads of the different meetings, and we will communicate with you ASAP so that you can make a plan for the time that you're out of this building.
The critical path is to, right now the service center exists back here, and we need that site for the building, of course. So we need to tear this down, relocate it here such that we can do the construction on this site. So it's important that it happens in that sequence for us.
How are you going to advise the community when you do these changes, since Facebook hasn't worked so far?
I don't use Facebook, I don't use
I don't
social
either.
media.
Do you get emails?
Yeah.
You read emails? So the mayor has started something earlier this year. He's got a monthly newsletter that goes out, and there's a report from each department. And so if you guys would like to be added to that list, we can get you on that list. You know,
I just want to make sure it's not limited like the survey was.
the survey was not limited. I mean, we had it at Unity Days. It was at
I
City.
know you're going to tell me all that, but I
Yeah,
would.
right. It's impossible to get out to everyone. I mean, even if we mailed it to people, I mean, I guess, look,
There's also paper copies. If you'd rather have a paper copy of the mayor's newsletter and you're not getting it through an email, you can notify City Hall, you can get paper copies if you.
Okay.
yeah,
That's all I'm asking.
we're happy to
We need
get.
to know how it's going to be
Yep.
disseminated.
So if there's anything that you want, we can get it to you.
The next community center question was, are gyms and courts duplicating facilities at Wildcat Sports and Fitness?
All right, that's a good question. So at Wildcat Sport and Fitness, the courts are available. The pecking order, so to speak, is academics, athletics, and community. So how that looks in reality is there is one court typically that's available for the public. It's usually seniors during the day while kids are in school. And then after school, it rolls right into athletics. So athletics runs from 2:30 to about 6:15. So the public then has the ability to get in there from 6:15 to 9:30 or 10 o'clock, whatever the current time is. I don't think it's going that late right now. But so it limits the space when you have basketball and volleyball and kids that want to play open gym and whatnot. So it seems like there's a lot of space, but there's not. Our gymnasium, we're going to use for a couple things. In the summer, currently right now, we have a day camp that has been upwards of 180 kids. And when it rains, we have to walk to Lander School. And that's fine, you know, that they walk in the rain sometimes. It's when there's a thunderstorm or something comes up quick, and you got a bunch of little kids and the counselors running across 3 lanes of traffic to get to Lander School. And knock on wood, nothing has happened, but we don't want to have an issue. So we always thought when this day came, it would be nice to have a place for them, a rain location for these people to go to. Additionally, having a facility like this will give us so many more opportunities to have not only basketball, which we provide now, but volleyball and a theater club class, and a lot of programming that we can't do right now because there's just no space. Again, at Wildcat Sport and Fitness, there's a pecking order, and in that pecking order, there's not a whole lot of time left for the public. For instance, on Saturdays, it's not open till, the gymnasium is not open till noon because athletics is in there all morning. Where we could have a basketball or a volleyball, you know, volleyball is a sport that we don't do right now. It's very popular out there. That would be something that girls can do. You know, if you're not a basketball player, you could do that. We certainly could develop a theater program. Sky's the limit on what we can program in a gymnasium like that. So we are excited about that and what it can do for us and what we can provide to our residents.
The next question was, who will pay for maintenance and staffing of these facilities?
I think the obvious question is you, the one with all the questions. You're going to pay for it all. Just a joke, just a joke.
No, you're not.
So this is being funded, this is ironic, this is being funded, in 2020, the city passed a 0.5% earned income tax. And the proceeds from that are designated, 60% of those proceeds are going towards roads and sidewalks, some projects that have already begun. The remaining 40% goes into public improvement fund.
Not the income tax.
That's the income tax, yes.
Didn't we just say if you don't work in Mayfield Heights, you don't pay the income tax? Didn't you just pass that?
That was passed, and
So what you're just saying is, The people who live.
It was a joke.
Working here pay tax.
People that
Everyone else
live,
pays.
the people that work in the border of Mayfield Heights pay this.
So
So if you're a senior citizen and you don't work, you don't pay this.
But if you work in Cleveland, you don't pay it either, right?
Correct.
Well,
No.
So that's
Well, it depends on the percentage.
shafting people, aren't you?
Well,
It's an earned income tax.
it's an earned income tax, and it was passed in the spring of 2020, and that's what's funding
Oh, no,
this
I was
project.
thrilled, because we work in downtown Cleveland, so we were absolutely thrilled. But if I lived in Mayfield and worked in Mayfield, I'd be really upset.
You probably wouldn't vote for it.
I guess the question is here, are the majority of the residents in favor of this project? I guess, that's, I'm not sure who asked the question, but, a good question. I mean, obviously, we want to, do something that's positive for the community and really everyone can take advantages of. And we've really tried to achieve all of those, as many targets as we could to hit that we think are an advantage for the community rooms, gymnasium, pools. Is there?
Yep. I mean, 15 million, I surmise we're floating some bonds to pay for this.
Government money.
Yeah, so that's a question that, when you get in touch with Mrs. Fagan, you ask.
So we don't know how we're paying for this? So, no, because my real question is, because it ties into the other person, if we're gonna float bonds, we're spending 15 million, what is that question on a ballot?
I'm not understanding, I'm not following.
Well, it's pretty simple, I mean,
It's not a bond, it's an earned income tax.
well, yeah, but it's still money, it's a big investment coming from a smaller group of people since we changed the income tax rules. So how come we didn't throw it on a ballot with a general election?
It was.
I don't know the answer to that, but the bottom line is, we put an issue on the ballot and the issue passed. So that's where we're at right now.
When
It passed it was supposed to be on St. Patrick's Day of 2020, but with COVID, it got pushed back, so it was actually, I think, August. No, I think it was the end of May.
May.
That
May
it finally
19th.
went through. Yes.
May 19th, it's
So,
Yeah.
right.
So the 15 million's coming from some other form of government money, not from us?
it's coming from that earned income tax that we're bringing in. Any other questions?
The last question was about bike racks, and yeah, they'll be provided.
I mean, that they can lock them because you can't just put your bike in. Is there a way for them to lock it? Because I've seen a lot of bike racks where they put the bikes in, but the kids have to go through contortions to get the lock in place.
Yeah.
I wondered if they were,
We haven't decided with the
but just a thought to bring up.
Sure.
And there'll be personal lockers on the inside, little cubby lockers that if you choose to, you can put your belongings.
I'm talking about bikes though.
Understandable, I'm just expanding the answer to say that from bike storage to your personal purse or belongings, you could lock it up at the facility. Carly, did we cover all the questions there?
We did, yes.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, going back to the design of the building, it's usually cheaper to build up than out. And I know there's an additional cost for the elevators and all that. So what would be the difference in cost if you went up more and utilized more space up than just spreading out so much?
It's a real challenge with that. As we went through the program, we have community rooms, so the rooms that have ceilings this tall, right? We have a basketball court, which, it has a 30-foot high ceiling. All of these, the majority of those programs cannot be stacked on each other or be higher than the zoning requirements for building height. And we wouldn't put those functions on those floors, it'd be very expensive. And we have a kitchen and a service dock that's on the first floor, and to take make stuff in the kitchen or service it, you have to move the kitchen up with any of these program components. So at the end of the day, there weren't any program components that wanted to be on a second level, or so it just made natural sense that it was all on the first floor. There just wasn't programmed for a second floor.
Now, what is the useful life expectancy of the new building? Meaning, when do you think we would outgrow it and we would need to expand it? Or would that ever happen?
I think that's a good question that we struggle with because the site is compact. And so one of the previous diagrams, we showed some horizontal expansion of where that would occur. And we also showed that we have a courtyard that we can infill as we need. We also have the flexibility of these community rooms that can be divisible, it can expand and grow, and have other multi-purpose rooms such that if additional programs are added, we have the spaces to accommodate them. We probably would not expand the pool deck. I mean, it's pretty locked in. There's a point when you can't keep building to the south because of visibility and lifeguards and just getting away from concessions in other areas. So the pool, that's why we want to maximize the aquatics in the water now, because it's going to be, those pools, depending on what type of pool, stainless steel edges or concrete, they should last between 30 to 50 years. And that's what we're designing the facility to be, is a 30 to 50 year building and pool as well. And if future in 50 years, if it needs to expand to something else, that would be,
We won't worry about that.
Yeah. So the point is to maximize that.
Don't worry about it. Maybe for the next
I wouldn't want to see the two-story building. Because that would go over the trees, correct?
The trees are pretty tall.
Okay.
Trees are very, very tall. There's pros and cons with any position of the building, any location of the aquatics deck, any location of the parking. This is, from our design perspective, the best orientation of all of the features for everything we know and given on the site. We've studied it, long and hard, and we truly feel it's the best positioning to keep this as an oasis right here, and all this other, I'll call it clutter, parking, service center, 271 on the back side of the building, or on that side, and really make this a very special environment. And the connectivity with the park right here. Keeping that all parkside function on that side. It makes a lot of sense for those reasons. You could always critique and think about different things, but we weighed them and it came out as the best solution from our perspective. To maximize the water, maximize the footprint, 85,000 square feet of water, of pool deck, and that is allowing us to get all this water included. And that was a prime kind of directive of this project. And for the future, build it now and get it all in there, because expansion and all that is very disruptive, and we wanted to plan it all now.
Another question on the slide. Other than apartment buildings, is there any structure in Mayfield Heights that's taller or as tall as the giant slide, 4 stories? And if not, does this thing need a variance, zoning variance?
We are in the middle of doing our zoning review and code requirements of this building, and if that is an issue, we will take it before the zoning board.
Okay, in the meeting you had with the residents last week, there were some comments that on the ball fields north of Marsall, there is a phase 2 plan where the ball fields there will be changed to have multi-sport fields. So my question is, why aren't we considering both phases of the plan now, rather than, in order to get perhaps the most perfect solution for phase 1 and phase 2, why are we only thinking about phase 1?
So phase 1 and phase 2 is just a way to split the project up. We're thinking about this, going back to what I talked about earlier about maximizing our footprint. So right now, if you think about our park, we have 3 baseball fields on one side of the park and 3 baseball fields on the other side of the park. And Right now, that's what our park is. It's a baseball-centric park. So if you want to play football, we have little football things that go on. And it's tough to get a football field in there because the outfields are so small because of the permanent fencing, home run fencing. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in phase 2 a multi-purpose turf field that can act as 4 baseball fields today, 16 youth soccer fields tomorrow, a regular tackle football fields the next day. It's multi-purpose, so no fencing is in the ground. It's all on the wheels, and so you make a design. This is what we need today, just multi-purpose in nature, so we can maximize our use of that facility. Additionally, you can start in the spring early, and let's face it, we've all been there. Actually, this is a great year. I mean, we've had beautiful weather. We've all seen those 45-degree days in December where we can be outside playing, but we don't don grass because if we rip it up, it becomes a muddy mess. And so that just expands our footprint, our recreational footprint, and what we can provide for our residents. So multi-purpose in nature and expanding the time frame in which we can use that.
So why don't we consider both of these together rather than fait accompli for this?
I guess it's just a good break off. This is a big project, and it's good to get started on this first, and when we get through with this, then we'll go to phase 2 and focus on one side of the park, and then focus on the other side of the park.
This way, you can get the minor major kids playing baseball in the park while you're doing this stuff during that time. You can't just do everything all at once.
We'll be able to utilize our park, the main part of our park, through this process.
Are there any other questions? I will remain here for a while after the meeting and can answer questions. There's a physical model on the table that you could look about on the project, and a couple of the boards, images of the slides are on easels. But feel free to come up, ask any additional questions, and we will document them. And then we do plan on coming back again. I mean, this is not the last time. I'm not sure the increment may be in a month, maybe a month and a half, when we get further along, so we can answer additional questions that you have and we get into more details. And of course, Sean Ward is available for reaching out to him directly, and I'll have my contact information up here as well. If you want to reach out to me, that's fine. We can try to get as much into this and make it right.